So, a very big hello to you again. Today, we are going to be discussing the analytical paragraph, which is one of the writing skills for class 10, the language and literature course. It also appears in class 9 and it comes in class 10, but I'm afraid very less practice is given, and the variety of questions is very large when we are talking about an analytical paragraph. It can be the where it can be an analysis of a bar graph, of a line graph, of a table, of a newspaper article. So there are a lot of things, and so you need to be able to understand how you are supposed to be doing it. So let's try and do some justice to that particular topic today. So I'm going to be starting with analytical paragraph, which is your class 10 and class 9 writing skill for the language and literature syllabus. It will appear as question number. The 1 and 2 are your reading comprehension questions. Question 3 is your grammar question. Question 4 is your letter, and question 5 is going to be your analytical question. So let's just start with that. So, as I was just telling you, that there are a variety of questions and variety of inputs which can be used for your analytical paragraphs. So let's just have a brief look at the different varieties. The first can be problem and solution based. You are given a problem and you are asked to think of a solution about it. You may be talking, there may be something about the way the literacy rate is going on, that it may be a newspaper clipping, and on the basis of that newspaper clipping, which is talking about that problem, you have to give a logical solution. The next one is data based. When I say data based, you are given a chart. A chart can be in the form of a bar graph, it can be in the form of any kind of a line graph, it can be a table. And on the basis of that, you have to draw comparisons, you have to draw similarities, you have to bring out the differences, you have to talk about the trends, and then you are going to draw some conclusions. Information based. There is a process which is mentioned in that. It could be the life cycle of a butterfly. It could be a life cycle of a weather cycle where the cycles and the currents change. You may be having to look at that kind of information, process that information, and then summarize it effectively. Then comes the next one, which is process description based. There may be flow charts, there may be diagrams which are given to you, there may be visuals. In fact, in one of the previous year's papers, there was something which was you were given the picture of a cartoon, and that cartoon basically spoke about the fashion trends which are existing in today's generations. On the basis of that, you had to write an analytical paragraph looking at the various things which were there in the cartoon. There were five, six different people wearing all kinds of clothes, and so they had to kind of talk about the trends. In that, you would have to obviously put in your own inputs and put in your suggestions as well. Then come to the next kind, which are the map based varieties. In the map based ones, you may be given two maps, and it's like you have to kind of pick out the similarities, you have to kind of pick out the differences. You may have to speak about the different kinds of landscapes, etc., depending upon the question that is there with you. Coming next, you have the behavior, function, pattern, or cycle based. Again, there may be flowcharts, diagrams, visuals. You have to understand the behaviors and then interpret. Coming next, you have the similarities and differences based questions. A lot of similarities are shown. You have two sets of data. Like suppose I talk about the rice production and the wheat production in India, and I talk about different states. So there may be some similarities in some states, there may be some differences in some states. So on the basis of that, on the basis of information that has been shown through the graphs, the infographics, you have to draw out some conclusions which bring out the differences, which bring out the similarities, and then you have to speak about some suggestions if the question so asks. The word limit is going to be 100 to 120 words. It is a 5 marker. Both your writing skills in the language and literature paper, be it the letter, be it the analytical paragraph, both are for 5 marks, and the word limit is approximately the same. Now, how do you bring about similarities? How do you bring about differences? How do you report an increase? What are the kind of words that will make your writing skill look better? Now, see, if in the line graph, it can be seen that you have a, I'm just going to show it to you. You have an increase which is being shown up like this. Let me use a red pen here. This is a kind of increase which is quite steep, quite vertical. This is a gradual increase. This one here is a steady increase. This is a skyrocketing increase. So you can use different kind of terms to show the kind of increase. So just look at the terms which have been used. It has risen, increased, gone up sharply. If you look at the last, the first one, it has gone up sharply. Steeply is the last one. Constantly is the second one. Shot up, skyrocketed, has experienced or seen a steep, dramatic, gradual, sudden rise, increase in. It has seen an upsurge. What do you mean by an upsurge? It's like after a period of calm, all of a sudden it has gone up, has shown or registered a steady, gradual, dramatic rise. Dramatic rise again, which has happened all of a sudden. It was showing a dip earlier, and all of a sudden there's a rise, and so it is akin to drama. So dramatic rise, gradual, sudden rise, increase in, upsurge, has shown, registered a steady, gradual, dramatic rise. So all these basically talk about the various terms you can use for talking about an increase. Is that okay? Now thereafter we come to some more terms which you can use. Has peaked, reached a peak. It is the highest point, because beyond a certain point you cannot see the values going up anymore. From there they start going down. So there, instead of using anything, you can use that it has peaked up. It has touched its highest, topmost maximum, or you can also say it has touched a high or a maximum of a certain thing. Thereafter come the ones where you are supposed to be reporting a decrease. Now, a decrease similar to an increase, it could be a sharp decrease, it could be a steady decrease, it could be an absolute steep decrease. It can come, plummet down to a certain thing, and then steady there and then go up again. So you have to look at the graph and accordingly use the terms which have been specified here. Has fallen, gone down, come down to, has dropped steadily. Steadily here, if you look at it, here this the arrow which is being shown here is showing a steady decrease. It has gone down constantly, it's gone down sharply, has plummeted. Plummeted means gone absolutely to the lowest level, plunged sharply, has experienced or registered or shown a steady, gradual, or a steep, dramatic fall, a decrease, a decline in, a downward trend. It has tapered off, has hit, touched, reached its lowest minimum level, or it has reached a low or a minimum of. So these are all the terms that you could actually use for reporting some kind of a decrease. Is that okay? Now coming to report a constancy. Constancy means when there is no very major increase or a major decrease. So when you're talking about a bar graph, over a period of time, remaining more or less constant, a line graph which is not really going up, figures in a table which do not show too much of a variation. So those are the kind of things which we are talking about when we are saying we are reporting a constancy. You will see here, the thing which I have shown here would be, this here is a constant thing because it's neither going up nor going down. Similarly, after a period of increase, there's a constant thing and then it has gone down. So if I have to look at the words which I can use here, I can use has plateaued. has steadied, has seen or registered or experienced or shown no change, has remained constant or static. Static, as the word says, it's not dynamic, it is remaining constant, unchanged, unaltered, or it has remained the same. So these are all words which I can use to report some kind of constancy. Now, if I have to report comparison, comparison generally would come in when you are talking of two things together. Like initially, I just gave you an example when I was talking about the production of rice and production of wheat together. So here I may be asked to compare the two. If I'm talking about, say, the sales of two companies, say of Ford and of uh, Hyundai together, I may be actually having two line graphs or two sets of bar graphs. So I may be having to report some kind of comparison or contrast. So the terms which I can use here would be in comparison to, as compared to, in sharp contrast to, in contrast with, is comparable or not comparable with. It compares well. It compares well means approximately the same. With contrasts with, contrast with, they are two at absolutely different positions, does not stand in comparison with. Here you will see that I've also made a double bar graph. Here the blue ones indicate the performance or the um, values of one kind of variable, and the red ones indicate the values of one kind of variable. So you can see how you can contrast. Like in the first set, if I say the blue is the Hyundai company and the red is the Maruti company. So I say the sales of the Hyundai company were in great contrast to that of the Maruti in the initial terms, but then it picked up to overtake in contrast to the Maruti sales. So, this is how you will have to bring about the contrast and the comparison between the two companies or the two variables which are there. You may have to report some kind of differences. When I say differences, I am trying to say that someone is doing better, someone is doing worse. So, in a way, I'm trying to talk about some differences between the performance of two different variables. So, here I can use terms like is better than, more than double, half as much, three times more, less than, not as big as. So, if I look back here, I could have said that Hyundai is not as big as Maruti in the first thing, but then later on I could have used that it has reached higher than the Maruti. So I have to report differences like this. Now coming to reporting similarities. It's the same as or similar to. It is or it they are comparable with, they can be grouped together. Now look at the second set of bars. If I look at the second set of bars here, they are more or less in tune with each other. And so I can here use this particular thing that they can be grouped together or classified together or clubbed with each other. So this is what I'm trying to say. They show a similarity. They are striking similarities between. Now, in a pie chart, a whole is divided into different parts or different portions and proportions. Like, suppose in this particular graph which I've shown you, there are one, two, three, four, five slices which I have carved out, and each of these a total of 360. There are three which are with 90-degree share and the others are with 30 and 60. So I may have to report a portion saying two-thirds of the entire population, one-fourth of, one quarter of, as many as 20%, less than 40%. So these are the kind of things which I can use when I'm talking about proportions or portions in a particular pie chart. As many as 20%, less than 40%, as high as 75%. So these are things which I could have used when I was talking about the reporting of different kind of data sets. Now, If I have to talk about the format of an analytical paragraph, an analytical paragraph has to be divided into three major parts. The first part is the introduction. The introduction, since an analytical paragraph, I've already told you, is not going to be taking more than 120 words. So you explain in one or two sentences or two lines what the graph is talking about. So, what is it talking about, and what is the subject? The major trend or the major thing which is being shown in the graph, that is the introduction. Follow it up with the body. In the body, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be explaining in great detail what the graph is about. You have to pick out figures, you have to explain trends, make comparisons, contrasts, bring out similarities, bring out differences, and divide into sub-paragraphs if required. So that would be the body. And finally, as usual, the end of each writing skill is the conclusion, where you conclude the data analytical paragraph by giving the overall view or summary of the graph. Is that okay? So this is how we go about a data and analysis paragraph. See, for example, I just wanted to show you this line graph in which there are multiple such things. You have Rishi is to write, I'm looking from here, Rishi is to write an analytical paragraph on the occasion of celebration of Anti-Dowry Week on the desirability of eliminating the social evil of dowry. Write it on his behalf in 120 to 120 words using the information given in the graph below. So there is very less which is actually shown to you. It is showing you that over a period of from 2014 to 2021, the number of dowry deaths, the number of marriages, the number of suicides, and the number of remarriages. So you will have to make a comparison using the four things. So here, nothing else is actually given to you. So you will have to start working from there. And if I look at it, I will have to start saying that the graph shown to show the graph shown here is a graph which analyzes the number of marriages vis-a-vis the number of deaths by burning or suicide cases or the number of girls who have remarried because of failed marriages over a period of 2014 to 2021. It can be seen that whereas the number of marriages went up from 400 to a maximum of 900 in 2016, it started coming down by 2021 steadily because it appears that girls do have stopped believing in the institution of marriage because of becoming financially independent. On the other hand, the number of suicide cases went up and peaked at 700 in the year 2014, from where it appears that the law and order situation seemed to get better. Girls seem to start becoming more aware of their rights, and suicide deaths have also started increasing, fortunately, decreasing, fortunately, over a period of time. The most alarming thing is that of the burnings which are happening, and these burnings would be happening only on account of dowry deaths. And this is in 2016, where the number of dowry deaths, burnings because of dowry deaths, has gone up to 800, 800, and which has now again considerably gone down. But it just shows that the status of women in Indian society is still very pathetic, and there is much to be done for the ladies to feel safer. The number of remarriages on account of failed marriages have also peaked in the year 2016. It can be seen that most of